Good morning, everyone. Well, good afternoon. I did film this morning with the green screen and everything else, but when I went to edit it this afternoon, memory card broke. So I thought I'd refilm. Morning after the game before Southampton, obviously, look, first off, before I get into it, I've got to say, obviously, the win is the most important thing for me. You needed them 3 points. However much we struggled, however much the performance was poor, which it was poor, the 3 points are the most important, and I'm happy for them. So please don't take this, the next comments as there's no pleasing him. Because, I'm happy for the 3 points. But I've got to say, largely, unimpressive. Nervous, which is understandable in some, again, strikers lacking conviction. Timid at home against a very poor team. Lucky is a good word. But there's more going on. There's more going on than meets the eye at West Ham. There is so much, after the last 2 years, you can see, the team was so together. They were so focused. They were so committed and everything else to the club. There is literally, you can see it in the way that we play. These players have not turned into bad players overnight without reason. But, people like, Bowen, Soucek. I thought our defence was very good yesterday. I think Maguire was brilliant. I thought Fabianski was great as well. But there is this lack of a sense of confidence. And I don't even think that win yesterday would breed confidence. We scored, very fortunate to get the goal. When I look back at it, I was confident that it would be given as a goal because Aguirre come from, but there was offside players. Different referees may have interpreted different ways. But apart from Bowen hitting the bar, we didn't really threaten, which is a big problem. A big problem in itself. That's without what's going on behind the scenes. And every day there seems to be, something that to me has been blindingly obvious for the past, 6 months or so. There is a blatant, what's the word? There's a discontent about what's going on. There's a distrust of the management. There's a distrust of the direction what we're going in. I think there's lots of, how can I say this? There's lots of people with their noses put out of joint by the way he's using certain people. And there's no trust. You can tell there's no trust there. There's no trust in David Moyes using the players that he's brought in. Somebody summed it up for me perfectly yesterday. He makes average players better. He makes good players bad. And that is David Moyes. Declan Rice is the exception in that, because I think Declan Rice is Declan Rice. Declan Rice is good, whenever Declan Rice plays, although he's not been exactly the same this season, but he's got a lot on his shoulders. Soucek is a passenger, and Harry still gets picked. When we need to keep the ball. I've done my absolute, for want of a better word, bollocks yesterday, because he's a professional footballer and he fucked up a 5-yard pass. And it's not the first time, but it's so frustrating to watch him do it again and again and again, and still getting picked in the team. And I'm sure that sort of resonates around the other players. Paqueta, although I thought he played well, I don't think he played as well as some people do. Did he get stuck in? Yes, he did, absolutely. Did he show a couple of bits and pieces? Bits of class. Yes, he did, absolutely. But he was nowhere near the best player on the pitch. The best player on the pitch for me was Aguerd. And the second best player was Tilo Kehrer, who's, had his detractors this season. But he's not what we paid £60 million for. And when you look at the comments, I mean, David Moyes is coming up with some bizarre shit about, Danny Ings, and he's isolated up front because he's not getting a lot and all that. He's basically setting up to not get beat. And against teams like Southampton, it may work. But fact of the matter is this. I didn't come away from there yesterday thinking, yeah, we'll beat Leeds and we'll beat Bournemouth and I didn't come away thinking any of that, to be honest. I come away from there thinking, we play like that against any of the other teams, we're going to get beat. Southampton were poor. They're a poor side. They're bottom of the league for a reason. But, at home, we was very fortunate to come away with 3 points. Anything other than 3 points yesterday would have been a disaster. A disaster. And there's things going on behind the scenes, and there's people right now, sort of, look, this is the way I'm looking at it. This may not be fact, things may come out, but when you're in a relegation battle, the fact that Scamacca got to the London Stadium, must have had his fitness test, failed it, and he got back in his car and he fucked off. When you're in a relegation scrap with your teammates, you don't leave. You know what I mean? And a lot of people say, well, it's, Scamacca attitude and all that. And I've heard a few things about his attitude, and he's not going to be with us at the end of the season. But we had the same thing with Sebastian Haller, and I was very critical of Sebastian Haller, and I don't like this in players, and I don't like this in Scamacca either, if this is what's going on. But when you're in a relegation battle, if you care about your teammates, if you care about the club, you don't fuck off home. You stay and watch the game, at least, to cheer the lads on. He didn't do that. There's not more than meets the eye. I think it's probably the worst kept secret in football that Scamacca is blatantly unhappy, and that is the 10th game yesterday. I think he's faking injuries, to be honest with you. He was fit enough to go and play for Italy. He's made 2 substitute appearances in our last 9 games for West Ham, not including yesterday. He don't want to be here. And the problem is with this, right, and this is what bemuses me about the management situation. We saw Chelsea sack their manager yesterday, which is, probably the least surprising thing I've seen this season. But we also saw Leicester do that. The only 2 clubs that have not sacked their manager in the bottom half of the table now is Nottingham Forest and West Ham. Nottingham Forest, I can understand. Man guided them to the Premier League for the first time in near enough 30 years, 25 years or something like that. West Ham, they've spent £180 million, and you've got players walking out the stadium. They're not signs of people that are committed. They're not signs of people that trust. They're not signs of people that like the place that they work. You see, when Declan Rice was injured, he was at every game. Scamacca has his fitness test, fails it, obviously, or gets told he wasn't in the squad, just fucks off. And there's, when you look at the quality of Sebastian Haller in other leagues, now I never think that Sebastian Haller was set up for West Ham, and obviously I was critical of Haller the way he played, but at the time it was working for West Ham. Like, there would be no point in changing the system to suit Sebastian Haller because it was working. At this moment in time, it's not working. We cannot keep on buying 45, 35, 45, 50 million pound strikers and let David Moyes absolutely fucking tear the arse out of them. That's what we can't do. We're not going to progress under David Moyes. And it's a time, they're not going to get rid of him. Let's be honest. We're not going to get... Our energies are will be better off focused getting behind the side. And people say about the atmosphere yesterday, it was a nervous energy. It was a nervous energy because we are walking into the stadium knowing that we could get beat by anybody. And when it gets to this time of the season, we saw what happened the day before. We're going to see what happens tonight with Everton. But it's not a good feeling around the club. And a lot of people say, yeah, but it's down to you, to make the noise, to do this, to do that. It is to a certain extent, but if you want to, if the club wants to call us customers, if I was eating a meal at a restaurant and it was one of the worst meals I've ever tasted, but I needed to eat it, I wouldn't get excited about it. Do you know what I mean? Like, listen, they need to show more. They need to show more courage. They need to show more determination. We know that they're good players, and it's stupidly, it's down to the players now to show the fans that they do care about the club, and just push through their disappointments, their their nervousness and all that to really fight for this club, because the club is not going to do them any favours. The club is not going to get rid of the manager, give them a fresh direction. The club are very set in their ways, which is, again, we can go back to the ball and all that, but they're failing once again. They're failing to show any sort of ambition. They just seem to walk into success accidentally, but don't know what it is to sustain it. That's what they seem to do. They got David Moyes in against everyone's wishes. He done really well for 2 years. It's quite clear now that he's took us as far as he can, and he's losing the changing room, but they don't know what to do. They don't know what to do. It's just like it's like they stumbled upon it in the last 2 years. We've got to get behind the boys. We've got to hope that we pick up enough points. We've got to hope that people are bad enough, because what I see yesterday from the performance, we're not going to beat anyone, through being good. We're going to beat people by the other team being worse and getting a little bit of luck. Need to see more Wednesday. You look at what games we've got left. We've got 11 games left. We probably need 4 wins. We've got first, second, third, fourth in the league, plus Liverpool to play. Liverpool, I know they've been poor, but are they poorer than us? Absolutely not. We'll be very lucky to get a result against Liverpool, which is ironically where, for me, it started falling down in the league. But hey ho, look, it ain't all doom and gloom. We did get the 3 points, and hopefully they show a little bit more in the next few games. But I've got to say, on that performance, I can't see it. I can't see it. We won't beat anyone else playing like that. But let me know what you think. Leave your comments in the comment section down below. But once again, thank you very much. One thing left to say, come on, you Irons.